Hello everyone, this is Serious Trivia, and today we're kicking off a brand new Let's Talk Lore series as we will explore Yuan Shu's life and his short-lived dynasty of Zhong. Now previously, we did a short series covering Yuan Shu's clan, where we documented their rise as a political powerhouse in the later periods of the Eastern Han Dynasty. So for this series, we will be skipping over all the background information and jumping straight into Yuan Shu's life. And if you have not watched that previous series and want more information about the Yuan clan of Hunan, then simply go check that out by clicking the link in the top right corner of this video. For everyone else who is still here, our story will begin sometime before the year 160, when Yuan Shu was born as the third and youngest son of Grand Excellency Yuan Feng. Now historically, Yuan Shu's exact birth year is not recorded. But given that we know Cao Cao was born in the year 155, I would guess that Yuan Shu would have been born around that time, give or take a few years later, as his oldest brother, Yuan Shao, was documented to be slightly older than Cao Cao. Regardless of his exact birth year, we do have records claiming that when his mother was pregnant with him, she had a dream where a deity informed her that the sun in her stomach is fated by the heavens, which in layman's terms means that he is destined to become an emperor one day. But although this tall tale is recorded down historically, I am inclined to believe that this story was made up, either right before Yuan Shu declared himself the emperor of Zhong, or right after, in order to fan up support and legitimacy for his new reign. But the validity of this story has no bearing on Yuan Shu's childhood, as he was in fact born with a golden spoon in his mouth, as his generation followed right behind the famous 4 generations of 3 excellencies, or 四世三公, from their clan, and he himself was indeed born into one of the most powerful clans in the Eastern Han dynasties at this time, with both his father and his uncle serving as one of the 3 Grand Excellency level positions at this time. Wealth and power were given, and as the youngest of 3 brothers, Yuan Shu was definitely the spoiled child in the household. His oldest brother, Yuan Shao, was neglected at home due to the fact that despite being the oldest, he was deemed unworthy as his birth mother was just a maid, a fact that Yuan Shu never allowed Yuan Shao to live down. The middle son, Yuan Ji, who shares the same mother as Yuan Shu, is the son of the main wife, and the one who was raised under strict rules, as he was expected to inherit their father Yuan Feng's titles and continue to bring glory to the clan. And indeed, Yuan Ji did not disappoint, as he would grow up to become an outstanding Confucian scholar, much like many of his clan members, and he would eventually reach the rank of Grand Tutor. In contrast, Yuan Shu was allowed to grow up like the spoiled kid that he was, as the few lines depicting his childhood in the Book of the Late Han described him as a child with a vigilante spirit and a taste for adventure, as you were more likely to find him in the hunting grounds rather than in the study, where he hunted and socialized with the boys from other elite clans. But as he grew up, his personality took a drastic turn, as his ambition for a political career transitioned him into more of a homebody, as he wanted to give off a sense of filial piety, necessary for that coveted recommendation letter needed to secure any government post. And of course, with connections running as deep and wide as the Yuan clan, that recommendation letter eventually came, and Yuan Shu quickly graduated from the local government to receive the promotion and the position of Henan Yi, which is the administrator of the Henan Commandery, or basically the administrator of the capital commandery, where the city of Luoyang sits. And if you remember from the Yuan clan of Hunan lore series, this was the same position that Yuan Shu's great-great-grandfather, Yuan An, the founder of this famous clan, had served for 10 years before ascending to become one of the 9 ministers and finally rising up to become one of the 3 Grand Excellencies. Luckily for Yuan Shu, he did not have to wait that long, as very soon after, he was elevated to serve right under the Minister of the Guards as Huben Zhonglang Jiang, or the Colonel of the Rapid Tiger Guards, which is why in the game Total War 3 Kingdoms, Rapid Tiger Guards are his unique unit. Unfortunately for Creative Assembly and the players, the Rapid Tiger Guards are historically a regiment of light cavalry responsible for the safety of the imperial palace, and not a group of infantry who only carries a sword running around rapidly to their death on the battlefield. And since Yuan Shu commanded one of the few regiments of cavalry units within the capital, he was naturally a hot commodity for alliances within the capital. As in the later years of Emperor Liu Hong's reign, the tension between the eunuchs and the Grand General He Jin rose to a very intense level. And of these two groups, Yuan Shu naturally chose He Jin for a variety of reasons. First off, coming from a prestigious clan, Yuan Shu probably shared the mainstream sentiment among the gentry clans in those days that the eunuchs were, first off, subhuman, and a plight plaguing the Eastern Han dynasty. Secondly, He Jin had the support of the empress, who is his half-sister, and the mother of the crown prince, Liu Bian. Lastly, He Jin also had many military connections and shared a very similar career path as Yuan Shu, as he had also served as the colonel of the Rapid Tiger Guards years before being elevated to his current position of Grand General during the Yellow Turban Crisis. So from all fronts, it made a lot of sense for Yuan Shu to fall into He Jin's camp, which had already included his older brother, Yuan Shao, who was at this time the second in command of the Emperor's 8th captain of the West Palace Guards. Of course, you have to bear in mind that at this time, both Yuan Shao and Yuan Shu were still youngsters, and they were just captains and colonels, and none of the decision-making really fell to them, and even within their clan, they still had uncles like Yuan Wei and Yuan Yi, who were in high positions and making the decision for the clan, especially after the death of their father due to natural causes. But very soon, after Emperor Liu Hong's death, and more importantly, General He Jin's assassination by the eunuchs, these two youngsters were thrusted into the forefront of Eastern Han politics, as in turbulent times, the men with the command of the military forces are the ones who are truly in charge. Therefore, on the night of General He Jin's murder, Yuan Shao first rallied with his fellow West Palace Guard captain and best friend, Cao Cao, as they besieged the imperial palace in a violent attempt to avenge He Jin and eliminate the eunuch threat once for all. At the same time, Yuan Shu and He Jin's lieutenant, Wu Kuang, also rallied their forces into the imperial palace, but they soon met fierce resistance from armed eunuchs who were ready to fight to the death. Inexperienced and a bit desperate, Yuan Shu led his forces to instead start fires around the south gate of the imperial palace before riding to the east and west gate to do the same thing, in an effort to smoke out the eunuch from the imperial palace, which was rather difficult to siege. And despite the loss of historical artifacts, Yuan Shu's plan did work, as the eunuch led by Zhang Rang seized the young emperor and his brother, the prince of Chenliu, Liu Xie, and fled from the north gate towards the Yellow River, where they will unfortunately meet their end at the hands of Dong Zhuo. So as Dong Zhuo would seize power in the capital, he first tried to appease these gentry clans as he showered the court with promotions. Yuan Shu was awarded the position of General of the Rear, quite a step up from his Colonel of the Rapid Tiger Guards. But at this time, Dong Zhuo had already forced Emperor Liu Bian to abdicate, passing the throne to the even younger Emperor Liu Xie, before poisoning both Liu Bian and Empress Dowager He. So for many of the gentry clans, Dong Zhuo had already become public enemy number one. So Yuan Shu did not accept this post, as he instead fled out of the capital with a small group of men still loyal to him, as he rode south for Nanyang. And when he arrived in Nanyang, the situation had continued to evolve, as Yuan Shu would find himself joining in with his older brother Yuan Shao's coalition, as Yuan Shao, who was in Bohai at this time, rallied together with many other regional administrators to form the Guangdong coalition as they seek to remove Dong Zhuo from office. Yet unfortunately for Yuan Shu, Yuan Shao was very popular among this group of gentry clans, and he was voted as the leader of this new coalition, mainly due to the fact that Yuan Shao at this time was no longer the son of just a maid, as he was instead adopted by Yuan Shu's uncle, Yuan Cheng, who did not have a son of his own. And when Yuan Cheng died, Yuan Shao became the head of that branch of the clan and even inherited a second marquis title from his dying adopted father. while Yuan Shu was stuck being the second-born son of his own branch of the clan, as he still had his older brother Yuan Ji, who inherited all of his father's title when Yuan Feng had died. So there was definitely some resentment and jealousy by Yuan Shu. But fortunately for him, the coalition was not all bad, as he was able to pick up a very talented general by the name of Sun Jian, who had been traveling north all this way from Changsha in order to join the coalition. Now, many of you might be wondering why the illustrious Sun Jian would end up joining Yuan Shu as one of his generals, when he will eventually be credited as one of the founders of the Kingdom of Wu during the Three Kingdoms period. Well, the thing is, Sun Jian is not and has never been illustrious during his entire career. As the third son of a simple melon farmer, Sun Jian crawled his way to become the administrator of Changsha after serving for years in the military, fighting both against the Yellow Turban rebels and the Liang rebels out west. Compare that to Yuan Shu, whose military rank of colonel puts him right beneath the 9 minister positions, not to mention his entire clan's connection within the entire government. So it was very natural for Sun Jian to join under Yuan Shu as one of his generals. And had Sun Jian's sons, Sun Ce and Sun Quan, not found the Kingdom of Wu, Sun Jian would have gone down in history as just one more of Yuan Shu's generals who had served and died tragically as Yuan Shu failed in many of his wars. But fortunately, that was not Sun Jian's fate, as he was quite talented, and one of Sun Jian's first duties as one of Yuan Shu's generals was to murder the current administrator of Nanyang, who was a appointee of Dong Zhuo named Zhang Zi. A task that was expertly done by Sun Jian, as he tricked Zhang Zi into attending a feast inside his own military encampment before holding him hostage shortly before framing him with a crime and executing him. And with Zhang Zi dead, Yuan Shu was able to seize Nanyang and make it his base camp. And with a population of well over 1 million, Nanyang was not only one of the most populous commanderies, but also one of the most wealthiest commanderies in China at this time, as it was largely spared from the worst of the Yellow Turban Rebellion, which took place mostly in northern China. So now, with this base established, Yuan Shu is well on his way to his dream of the Zhong Dynasty, which at this time has not taken shape in his head. But as we wrap up this episode, we will come back next time as we will see how that idea first conceptualized within Yuan Shu's head and how a series of military misfortunes will force Yuan Shu away from Nanyang. So hopefully you all enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!